The bus doors folded open with a tired hiss, and Armin Qureshi stepped onto the sunlit street, carrying nothing but a duffel bag and the weight of a war that refused to leave him. The morning was bright, almost painfully so, as if the world had moved on without waiting for him to catch up. Children rode bicycles down the sidewalk. Shopkeepers lifted shutters, and somewhere a dog barked lazily at a passing rickshaw. Everything looked normal, and that was what made it feel so unreal. He had imagined this moment for years, coming home, breathing familiar air, hearing familiar sounds. But now that it had arrived, he felt like a stranger in his own life, unsure where to stand or who he had become. Before we continue this emotional journey, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Stories of Healing if you believe in kindness and second chances. Your support keeps these powerful stories alive and reaching hearts around the world. Armin stood still for a long moment under the warm daylight, letting the noise of the neighborhood settle around him. The small house at the end of the lane was still there, with its faded blue gate and the bougainvillea climbing stubbornly along the wall. It looked smaller than he remembered, as though time had gently shrunk it while he was away. The house held every memory of the life he had once known, a life before uniforms, before gunfire, before the long nights spent staring at unfamiliar skies. It also held a memory of his late wife, Farah, whose absence had carved a permanent silence into his chest. He tightened his grip on the duffel bag and began walking toward the house, each step heavy but determined. The midday sun warmed his shoulders, and for a moment he felt something close to relief. He had survived. He had returned. And waiting behind that blue gate was his 6-year-old daughter, Meher, the reason he had held on to hope through every dark moment overseas. The gate creaked softly as he pushed it open. The small courtyard was tidy but quiet, with a pair of tiny sandals near the door and a potted plant that looked recently watered. He knocked gently, and within seconds the door opened to reveal Meher's grandmother, who had been caring for the child in his absence. Her eyes filled with tears at the sight of him, and though no words were spoken in that moment, the embrace that followed carried years of longing, relief, and gratitude. Meher appeared moments later, standing shyly in the hallway with wide, curious eyes. She had grown taller, her hair longer, her face more defined. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then she ran into his arms with a force that nearly knocked him back. In that sunlit doorway, with dust dancing in the afternoon light, Armin felt something inside him begin to mend. The days that followed were not easy. War had left its fingerprints on his mind and body, and returning home did not erase the memories that haunted his sleep. Loud noises made him flinch. Crowds made him uneasy. Even the silence of the house sometimes felt overwhelming. He wanted to be the strong, steady father Meher deserved, but there were moments when he felt like a broken version of himself, unsure how to rebuild. He tried to find work, visiting small shops and offices around the neighborhood. Some employers offered polite smiles, but no opportunities. Others hesitated when they learned about his time in the military, unsure whether a man who had seen so much could truly adjust to ordinary life. Each rejection felt heavier than the last, and the savings he brought home began to dwindle faster than he had expected. Still, every morning he woke early, prepared breakfast for Meher, and walked her to school under the bright, forgiving sun. Those walks became his anchor. The simple rhythm of holding her small hand and watching her skip ahead on the pavement reminded him of why he had fought so hard to return. Day by day, he tried to rebuild a sense of normalcy, even as uncertainty lingered like a shadow. One afternoon, as Armin struggled to fix a broken fence in the courtyard, he noticed his neighbor standing by the low boundary wall. The man, an older widower named Karim Siddiqui, had lived next door for years, but had always kept mostly to himself. Karim was known for tending his garden meticulously, spending long hours among his roses and jasmine under the open sky. That day, he watched Armin quietly for a moment before speaking. The sentence Karim offered was simple, almost casual, yet it carried a weight that would change everything. He said that surviving war was not the end of man's story, and that sometimes the hardest battles were the ones fought in daylight, among ordinary people who needed courage just as much. He told Armin that the neighborhood had seen many struggles, but also many recoveries, and that there was always room for someone willing to start again. Those words settled deeply into Armin's mind. They were not grand or poetic, but they held a quiet truth he had not allowed himself to believe. For months, he had seen himself only as someone trying to recover from what he had endured. Kareem's sentence made him consider a different possibility, that he could also become someone who helped others heal. The next morning, Armin noticed a group of children playing in the empty lot near the street. Some argued loudly, others looked lost or restless. A few older boys seemed headed down paths that worried him. He recognized that restless energy, the kind that could easily drift toward trouble without guidance. For the first time since returning home, he felt a spark of purpose. He began by simply showing up at the lot each afternoon. At first, he only watched, occasionally offering a friendly smile or helping retrieve a stray ball. Gradually, the children grew comfortable with his presence. He started organizing simple games, teaching them discipline and teamwork the way he had learned in the army, but softened with patience and care. Under the open daylight, laughter replaced tension, and the empty lot slowly transformed into a place of structure and hope. Word spread through the neighborhood about the returning soldier who spent his afternoons mentoring children. Parents who had once been wary now expressed gratitude. Some offered small donations of sports equipment. Others volunteered time. Kareem brought water and shade umbrellas, watching with quiet satisfaction as the one silent lot filled with energy and positivity. As weeks turned into months, Armin's initiative grew into a small community program focused on helping local children build confidence and resilience. The structure provided began to heal him as much as it helped them. Each smile, each moment of progress, stitched another piece of the spirit back together. Meher often joined him, proudly watching her father become a source of strength for others. One particularly bright afternoon, as sunlight poured over the lot and children practiced drills with enthusiasm, Armin realized how far he had come. He was no longer just a man returning from war. He was a father, a mentor, and a pillar of his community. The scars he carried had not vanished, but they had found purpose. If this story has begun to touch your heart, remember that every small act of kindness can change a life. Stories like this exist all around us, waiting to be noticed and shared. Before we reach the ending, here is a special request. Comment where you are watching from and share one act of kindness you believe can change someone's life. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in warm hues, Kareem approached Armin again. This time, there was a quiet pride in his eyes. He observed how the once lost children now stood taller, how the neighborhood felt more connected, and how Armin himself looked steadier, more at peace. Without needing many words, the older man's expression said everything. The single sentence he had offered months earlier had sparked a transformation that neither of them could have fully imagined. Armin looked around at the lively scene, the laughter of children, the gentle hum of neighbors chatting, the golden glow of daylight fading into evening, and felt a deep, steady gratitude. He understood now that returning home was not just about survival. It was about rediscovering purpose, embracing second chances, and allowing kindness to guide the path forward. As night approached and the last rays of sunlight softened into dusk, Armin walked home with Meher by his side, his steps lighter than they had been in years. The war had taken much from him, but it had not taken his ability to rebuild, to love, and to give back. Sometimes, all it took was one sentence, spoken at the right moment, to remind a person that their story was not over. If this story moved you even a little, take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps more people discover stories of hope, healing, and second chances on Stories of Healing. And together we can keep spreading light where it is needed most.